All right, so welcome to Board Game Babylon, a podcast about designer board games, among other things. This is a video version of the podcast, and I'm so excited to have as my first guest as a video. This may come out after one more, but probably my first guest on the podcast, my good friend Ted Alsbach. Ted, thanks for joining me.
Hey, it is great to be here.
Yeah. So, and be where you are, where I am, obviously we're quite a ways away now, but as we were saying earlier, I missed getting a chance to talk with you a little bit, a couple months ago when we were together in Niagara Falls. But so I'm glad to get a chance to reconnect now and hear about, honestly, your cool new game, which I heard exists, but I'm excited for you to answer. First off, foremost, my 5 quick questions, which I have some fun, getting some feedback out of people about recent games. That'll give me a chance to hear about the game directly from the horse's mouth, so to speak. So Ted, thank you again for joining. First question is really, really simple. What's that elevator pitch for Silver?
Yeah, so Silver, so excited about this. We've been working on this for a couple of years now, and we're finally launching it this year at Gen Con. It's a surprisingly interactive hand management card shedding game. The concept of card shedding doesn't happen that often. There's some games like Golf and Cabo, Rat-a-tat-cat, a bunch of other little games like that. But Silver is kind of its own unique game in that area, and it's designed more for a little heavier than some of those lighter games. In Silver, each card has a number of werewolves on it, and you start with 5 face-down cards. You note just 2 of them at that point. Your goal by the end of the game is to have as few werewolves as possible by trading out cards with higher numbers for those with lower numbers of werewolves. Mm-hmm. However, each card also has a special ability. And so you've got to manage both the number of werewolves and those abilities to quickly shed those werewolves and the cards as quickly as possible to get the lowest score possible. There's this great amount of tension because at a point in the game, someone can call for a vote, which is basically saying that they think they have the lowest number. And everyone else gets a turn at that point, which there's some interactive cards which you might be able to screw with someone or possibly, drastically reduce the cards you have after someone else calls. But if they're successful, they end up with 0 points. And of course, your goal is as few points as possible. They get 0 points, which is great. They also get to go first on the next round. And they also get this special silver amulet of protection power to use the next round. So there's a lot riding on this call if they make it or not. So you're trying to stop them. They're trying to go for it. Of course, if they don't make the call, then things go horribly off the tracks for them because not only do they not get 0 points, they get the sum of their cards plus 10 points. Mm-hmm. And that's rough. For them at that point. And of course, they're not going to go first again and a bunch of other things like that. So there's a lot of tension there for that little aspect of the game. That happens 4 times during the game. There's 4 rounds that are played. And at the end of the game, whoever has the lowest score wins.
All right. Awesome. Well, that was a long elevator ride. Like, I know there's a place in Dubai that we could have probably gotten up to the top for that.
They have tall buildings. I'm sure it's fine.
Yeah, that's right.
If you need an elevator, right, it's got to be a tall building. So you're going to be in it for a little while.
That's true. Very good. So I always say making games is hard. I found it very hard myself. What was the inspiration for Silver?
So a couple of years ago, I played tons and tons of a game called Cabo. Which is kind of, in a lot of ways, a predecessor to Silver. And the basic idea is you're just, again, getting rid of cards and reducing the card values you have in your hand. And when I did that, I was looking like, this is really neat, but it's a little light. And I discovered there's this whole little subclass of these hand management card shedding games. And looking into those, again, looking for something that's a little more meaty, because, just being a gamer, you want just some more choices and interesting decisions. There really wasn't anything out there. So I started playing around with some ideas and kind of used the basic concept is the same, where you have a bunch of cards, some you know, some you don't, and you're just trying to get rid of them. But no one had really taken it to that level of where I thought where gamers would want, which is each card does something interesting in addition to having some sort of value. And, as a game designer, you're making those cards that have the high values, have the most interesting abilities. So you want those high cards with those cool abilities, but at the same time, there are all these points that you don't want. And so it's balancing that aspect, which is really a lot of fun. So I've spent probably, like I said, about the last 2 years or so working on Silver in some ways. As a result of this, because we were looking into this, we actually thought, you know what, we may want to talk to the person who did Cabo and see if they want an enhanced version of Cabo. And we talked to them, and they were excited just about us republishing Cabo because they had done Cabo a long, long time ago, like 10 years ago. And so we actually ended up doing republishing Cabo as well and tweaking some of the rules in there slightly based on all the testing and whatever that I had done with Silver as a result. So there's a few tweaks to the new version of Cabo that we released earlier this year. And Silver is then, basically the result of all of those different games that we were playing and looking and seeing what else we could do. That's just this big beast with all these cool things that's going on.
No, I'm really excited for that. I have played Cabo, not the original release, but your reprint of it. A friend of mine brought it back, I think, from Dice Tower West, and we played it kind of obsessively that day that we got it. So, like, all right, no, like play it again. That it's got that kind of a feel, which we really, really enjoyed. So I'm quite keen to see how you've upped the ante on Silver. So that's really cool. All right. So my next question is: there are too many games out there, as you can see. There are too many games. So what spot does this fill in your collection? What does Silver do for you?
So it's a midweight filler. So you can think of it that way. The game itself is 30 to 45 minutes. It is super easy to learn. You've played Cabo, that's a super easy game. Silver is actually not any harder to learn. The basic idea of every turn you just draw a card and then you either do something or you trade in cards, for it. That's pretty much the basic rules. It's just now that the cards have special abilities, and some of those cards actually you put face up in your, like when you take them, if they're face up, they give you a special ability. So for instance, the 2, if you have a face up 2 in your planet of village, because of course we've got werewolves, if you have it there, every turn you get to look at one other of your cards. Yeah. So that gives you that special ability. The 3 lets you protect a card so nobody can steal it from you. That sort of thing. So all of them kind of work together that way. But again, you don't need to know that when you start the game. As soon as you get it, you'll see the card. You can read the card and go, super easy rules. Each turn, you can view one card. Okay. And so it's really, really easy to pick up. But it has a ton of flexibility. And of course, we're not releasing just Silver, but we're also doing Silver Bullet following that, which is another set of cards with the exact same base mechanism, but all the cards have new special abilities. And you can play that set by itself, or you can mix and match cards from the Bullet deck or the original deck.
Awesome. Okay, very cool. All right, so, and as I said, my fourth question is always, this is Board Game Babylon. So what do you not want to tell me about this? What's your dirty secret about Silver?
Okay, so I'm going to tell you 2 things. How's this? Right. So first of all, one thing which most people aren't aware of that we really haven't talked about very much. And this is like 2 scoops for you. So, like big newsflash. Awesome. The first one is that we actually have 4 other decks that are currently under development for Silver that we're planning on doing. About 2 of them, we're planning on releasing 2 to 3 every year. For the next couple of years. And so there's 4 that are in like heavy duty testing. We're tweaking the roles and the abilities and making sure they're all balanced and everything. And in addition to that, we have a few dozen additional cards with abilities that haven't fit into any of those decks yet. So there is a lot of legs for this and a lot of flexibility for this game going forward. And the more that we've played it and we've done things, the more exciting stuff that we've come up with. One of these cards. So, in Cabo, having a lot of points is bad, right? Well, there's this one card in one of the upcoming decks called the Mad Bomber. And the way the Mad Bomber works is if it's face up in your village at the end of the game, everyone else gets a bunch of points, not you. And so you've got to face up. So then everyone sees that there, and they're all trying to figure out how they can get that card either flipped back over, face down, so it doesn't get points, or steal it from you so that they can have it. And it adds this whole extra little area of pressure. But there's all sorts of fun little cards like that throughout that we've been developing and working on. So that's one thing. The second thing, and we're done with the questions, I'm going to actually show you something here that no one else has seen before.
Oh, very cool.
But we'll get to that in a few minutes, but it's a very, very cool thing.
All right.
So special super secret thing.
I'm excited. You've sufficiently raised my interest. So, all right. So last question is, tell me, so we heard a little bit about your timeline to, how much time it takes to play it. We've heard a little bit of middleweight. I didn't hear how many players it is, maybe any of the other specifics you want to make sure. And is this just coming out as a release? It's not coming out as a Kickstarter or anything like that?
Yeah, it's a regular release. Here's what the box looks like. You can take a look there. It's
Very nice.
It's about the same size as our One Night Ultimate Werewolf boxes, that sort of thing. A
little
little thicker.
Yeah, okay.
And the reason it's thicker is because inside the box, you've got this tray. It's a little hard to see probably in the video there, but all the cards can be placed. There's a little game trays made tray inside there. There's a little pocket in here that actually has a silver amulet, which you use in case you win. That's the special token that you get. A place for your score pad here. And the reason you want this is because when you have multiple copies of silver, you want to be able to put like the 3 and the 5 from the silver base game and the 4 and the 6 from Silver Bullet, and maybe some numbers from other copies of silver.
Yeah.
So it plays 2 to 4 players. And what's really interesting about this, and Kabo's is this way a little bit, but Silver even more so, is that the game is very different with different numbers of players. There's still a high level of interactivity either way. But there's a greater risk-reward factor when you call with multiple players. More people have a chance to be able to thwart you from your call. The card abilities act differently depending on how many players there are. Right. And so it becomes a different experience each time, although it takes about the same amount of time to play, 30 to 45 minutes.
Okay. Oh, so even with 2 to 4, we don't.
Yeah. So one of the interesting things about the game, that it's a little weird, is that when you deal out the cards, you deal to 4 players regardless of how many people are playing. So you always have basically 20 cards out right away, and so your deck is always 32 cards. Okay. You just don't use the extra sets of cards if you're playing with 2 or 3 players.
Got it. Okay. All right. So yeah. So it's going to be anything. And what about that 2-player experience? Because my wife is often the only person at the game table with me. So I'm excited to hear about that as my children get older and they're harder to corral to the table. I do need those 2-player experiences. Is that like a dummy? They're like dummy players or something?
No. In fact, it's the full game. It's just, again, a little different because instead of having 3 players to work with, you're just focusing on one other player and basically trying to beat the one person. You don't need any dummy hands or anything. Those extra cards that you deal are just out of the game. They're just out of the game entirely. Yeah.
Well, that's great to hear though, because I know my wife is one of the people that was calling for more Cabo, when we were playing. So it sounds like Silver might be right up her alley.
Yeah.
If it's just the 2 of us, she's willing for games to be heavier and heavier and heavier as well. So yeah, so she wants to get good at them before she plays with other people. Very, very cool. All right, we've got our 5 questions across. Thank you for that. But you have something special to show us?
Oh yeah. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to actually share my screen. This is good old Skype here. Share screen and start sharing. And you can see yourself right now in the window. Yes. Okay. So now you see a screen right there. I'm going to make this full screen here. All right. So you see, this is my iPad.
Yep.
Okay. You got that full screen. All right. There we go. So this.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So we have been working on this for a while too. This is one of the nice little things that we've done. That this is actually a game that we're going to be releasing, and it's going to be free for people to be able to play the game. So it's not quite done yet, but it's close enough to be able to show at this point. So here I am just looking at 2 cards.
Yeah.
Taking a turn, I tap a card here. The 9, if I want to see what that does, I can tap and hold, and that shows me exactly what that does. So I'll go ahead and use that. That lets me view any card. I could view a card and all that sort of thing. Anyway, that's the basic idea here. I'm going to zip out of there, but you've got a slight little preview. We haven't showed that. We haven't announced it to anybody or anything at this point. So pretty excited about that. So
that's fantastic. Oh yeah. Well, of course, we love the app experiences with the One Night series. We have a lot of fun with that as well. That is one of our go-to kind of evening ending experiences, and everybody loves the apps. And of course, and of course we use Start Player all the time for our Start Playing. So
wow, yeah, back in the day, Start Player. Wow.
Yeah, no, I still have it. That's what I always joke with people. I said one of the good things that actually Siri can do is she can start Player pretty well. So yeah.
Oh, that's good.
Most of our games begin with that. So absolutely. Well, Ted, thank you so much for joining me today. We'll keep it short and sweet. Excited about Silver. Certainly, this is one more thing though. Gen Con release, is that what you said, or?
Yes, with Silver will be out at Gen Con, and it'll actually start shipping to everybody else probably by September.
Okay. Okay, so it's available is it available for pre-order now, or they should?
Yeah. People can pre-order it on the Bezier Games website if they'd like. Yeah,
Okay.
and that way they'll get a copy basically as soon as it ships.
Awesome. Okay, we will post all that information in the various places where this information shows up.
Cool.
Great to speak to you, Ted. I'm excited to try out Silver. I'm sorry I missed the chance to play test it potentially earlier this year, but I'll get it when it actually comes out and enjoy it.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Awesome. Take care.
Thanks.